There are a lot of abandoned buildings in Puerto Rico. It's not pretty and it's a real problem for communities. Some say you have to invite wealthy investors who have the money to buy these properties and hopefully fix them.
Investors, this is what opportunity looks like. That's opportunity, that one, big one.
The trade-off is they'll profit off them.
Have you ever walked into a house and it smells like cat pee really bad? You know what that smells like to me? Money, baby, money.
Others disagree with that approach.
Si hay alguien parásito en este país, son los inversionistas.
They say the investors coming in are gentrifying their communities and displacing them.
Que hay una intención de abandonar el país para que vengan otros a comprar y a sacarnos de aquí.
And they say the people already living there need these spaces to grow food, for housing, to provide services to their neighbors. So they're occupying them.
Son momentos urgentes y requieren medidas urgentes y nosotros las vamos a tomar.
They're not asking for permission. They're going in, cleaning these spaces, making use of them, and in some cases they get to keep them.
Estos espacios son nuestros, que este territorio nos pertenece y que lo vamos a desarrollar como nosotros entendamos que podemos desarrollarlo.
This story is about Puerto Ricans illegally occupying land and buildings to fight displacement.
Cuando pasó el huracán María, esta comunidad pasó por muchos lugares en Puerto Rico que los vecinos nos empezamos a conocer. No sabíamos qué iba a pasar, veíamos todo destrozado y muchos de los vecinos nos dimos la mano, cocinábamos.
What happened next is what tends to happen when communities get together. They start conspiring about how to make their neighborhood better. They set their eyes on the piece of land next to this vacant house. Arnaldo says it was full of clutter.
Este espacio era un espacio que estaba totalmente abandonado, daba hasta miedo. Entramos ilegalmente y limpiamos el espacio.
Then they started thinking of the possibilities, and they came up with the idea of growing food on this land. They figured it's what they needed most, especially after what they had just been through with Hurricane Maria.
Yo tuve vecinos que se fueron a buscar comida, a ver si conseguían comida en algún fast food o algo, y llegaban y sin comer nada.
This time they did ask for permission from the owner, a woman who had inherited the house from her mother.
Y ella le motivó la idea, le gustó, sí, me han vuelto, metan mano.
What followed were a couple of years of a lot of work to transform this space.
Llegaba gente de todas partes, o sea, no solamente gente de la comunidad, a hacer este sueño realidad.
They managed to turn this into this. They collected their neighbors' food waste and used it to grow crops.
Yo me siento orgulloso de decir que pude hasta cosechar brócoli.
Then they would share the harvest.
Teníamos hasta una canastita, todo lo que nos sobraba lo regalábamos a la comunidad.
They had events, school field trips. It became a meeting point for the community. And then they found out someone had bought the land, an investor from New York.
Me lo dio en efectivo.
Lucy lives next door. Her cousin was the owner of the house.
Yo hice una lista de las personas que querían comprarlo y se la di a ella.
Lucy says there were several neighbors interested in buying the house and the land. When they found out her cousin had sold it to an outside investor for $125,000, the community was not happy.
No puedo decir nombre, pero hay una que la llamó y le dio un insulto por teléfono que...
This changed things. Now they were occupying a piece of land that belonged to someone who had different plans for the space.
La intención de él era comprar mi casa, comprar esta, comprar la de toda la cuadra.
She told them she wasn't selling, and so did the other neighbors.
Él ha venido a ofrecer por encima que él tiene pensado construir un edificio aquí, sí, como Ciudadela.
This is Ciudadela.
No estoy en contra del progreso y que abran cosas y que la ciudad crezca, pero también hace falta espacios como este. La gente tiene una noción bien equivocada porque es el progreso. El progreso no es cemento, no es edificio, no es construcción. El progreso puede ser agricultura.
The investor is David Kingsley. He declined to speak to me on camera, but the community says he hasn't tried to kick them out. Instead, he agreed to rent the land to them for $1 a month, just to have it on paper, until he decides what to do with it. Arnaldo says the community wants to collectively buy the space.
Hay algo bien bonito que puede pasar aquí y se puede dar y puede ser un ejemplo incluso no solamente a Santurce, sino para el resto de Puerto Rico.
In the meantime, the uncertainty has dampened the mood. The community has backed off from putting so much effort into a space they might lose. But Arnaldo hopes they can pick it back up and return it to its glory days.
Yo personalmente comí muchas cosas aquí y bien orgulloso. Vamos a ver qué pasa en el vuelto.
Hey everybody, look at this. I'm in love, and I don't care who knows it.
The investors buying in places like Santurce are attracted by very generous tax breaks.
I paid $1.4 million in income tax, and I said, never again, we're going to Puerto Rico.
There's the tax break that only applies to investors moving to Puerto Rico, not locals. There are tax credits for investing in tourism development.
We love these small little guest houses because they're easy to run, produce massive, massive cash flows.
And there's a 15-year tax exemption for new development in distressed areas. 98% of Puerto Rico has been declared distressed.
Only in Puerto Rico, guys. This is absolutely the dream scenario.
The government argues this will bring much-needed investment.
Look at this beauty in Rio Piedras.
But in some cases, investors are buying properties and just sitting on them.
We paid $24,000 for it, and we did nothing to it, flipped it for $65,000, and they've done nothing to it, and now it's probably worth about $200,000. Go figure.
Es más lo que se llevan que lo que dejan, porque si no, no fuese un negocio.
I reached out to all the investors you've seen in these clips, but none of them agreed to an on-camera interview.
Vienen a extraer y lo saben, y lo saben.
Giovanni Roberto is part of a group that occupied this building in Caguas after Hurricane Maria. People were hungry and comedores sociales needed a place to feed them. They found this building that appeared to be abandoned, but with a lot of potential for what they wanted to do. So they broke the lock and went in. He says what they found inside was disgusting.
Muchos cubículos, madera, cucarachas, ratones, mucho gato también.
They started cleaning, fixing, and cooking. They say they've served more than 100,000 plates of food since the hurricane. By 2022, they had invested almost $120,000 between repairs, solar panels, kitchen equipment. But 4 years in, no one had come by to claim the building. So they started searching for the title holder and found it was an LLC connected to a real estate company called Morgan Reed.
La primera comunicación fue para dejarnos saber ellos que sabían que estábamos invadiendo el espacio. Y que con esa claridad nos estaban dando un tiempo para resolver el asunto. O me arrendas o te saco en 30 días, facilito. Así fue la comunicación. Nosotros con mucha dignidad, con mucha temple, dijimos, no, nosotros venimos a sentarnos a negociar porque este espacio nos pertenece a nosotras.
My name is Brian Tannenbaum. I'm the regional director of the Morgan Reed Group here in Puerto Rico.
Morgan Reed is the same company connected to the purchase of the Oceanfront School in San Juan that I told you about in this video. Brian Tannenbaum is one of the executives at the company, and the person Comedores Sociales says they had to negotiate with.
Él decía, ustedes tienen suerte de que yo estoy enfocándome en Santurce y en Viejo San Juan, que todavía no me interesa Cagua. Un poco como que gracias a la gentrificación que estoy bregando allá o el desplazamiento que estoy bregando allá, ustedes tienen más chance de sobrevivir.
The corporation bought the building in 2015 for $108,000. They sat on it for 7 years and were now selling it for more than triple. Comedores Sociales didn't have that kind of money, but they've kept using the building anyway. Once a month, they give out free groceries to more than 150 families in Caguas. They have free weekly acupuncture and massages for the community, ping pong for the youth, and they host a market where they sell produce at a low cost. They're trying to bring life to an urban center that looks like this.
Yo recuerdo cuando yo me mudo para aquí, que mi mamá me dice, pero ¿qué tú estás haciendo? Si el casco urbano no sirve, eso está todo apagado, es inseguro, te pueden matar, te pueden asaltar.
Celso Mar says all the abandonment drives people away. That's why his group is also occupying buildings. Urbapié has now claimed 8 spaces.
Nosotros vinimos a darle valor a toda esta comunidad que parecía que no lo tuviese.
They have turned what used to be abandoned buildings into an art gallery, a secondhand clothing boutique, a museum, a theater, and a food garden. And they have already identified a couple dozen more spaces they want to acquire by 2030.
Si no ocupamos, si nosotros no rescatamos nuestro espacio, ¿quién lo va a hacer? Los que están haciendo los de afuera y luego hacen un montón de Airbnb, ponen las rentas bien caras en la comunidad y la gente no va a poder pagarla. Se tiene que ir de ahí.
In some of these spaces, Urbapié has reached an agreement with the owners. At the gallery, they now pay rent thanks to donations from the yoga classes they offer. Where they have the food garden, one of the heirs gave them informal permission to use the space. And the building where they have the museum, well, the owners of that building tried to evict them, but they didn't succeed. So now they're open to either renting or selling to Urbapié. In the meantime, the group is turning the upper floors into housing for people who need it.
Necesitamos un lugar para donde vivir.
Efraín is already living in one of the rooms in exchange for working the food garden. I asked him how he feels about illegally occupying the building.
Pues estaba abandonado. Aquí habían cucarachas en todas partes. Sabrá Dios qué más.
Seu says at first neighbors in the area were not thrilled to see them occupying spaces, but they've been winning people over.
Nos ha pasado, de repente, esos son los pelú ocupando, y de repente en el transcurso del tiempo ocurre un María y quienes son los primeros que dan comida son los pelús ocupando.
Ah, pues mira.
Los pelús translates to the hairy ones, referring to their long hair and beards. It's a stereotype that has followed them since their university days.
Yo tenía el pelo corto en la huelga. Yo no era un pelú.
Sí,
yo me hice pelú después de salir de la huelga.
Seus, Maricel, and Giovanni all attended the Public University of Puerto Rico. All three of them participated in the university strikes more than a decade ago. At the time, students were protesting higher university costs. The protests gained international attention because they turned violent.
¿Ustedes se acuerdan la razón por la que estábamos en el Capitolio, que fue horrible? Genuinamente yo tenía miedo por mi vida.
Y la policía nos recibió a cantazos.
Y después nos gritaron, ¡corran, corran! Y salieron desde el helicóptero, empezaron a tirar los gases lacrimógenos, así como proyectiles.
The strikes lasted a couple of years, and they say it was a lesson in organizing.
Por un lado, la continuidad de lo que estábamos haciendo nosotros en aquel momento y ahora es que estábamos defendiendo servicios para los que más lo necesitan. Casi siempre en oposición a lo que ellos quieren hacer, que es un mundo para, como decía alguno, un Puerto Rico sin puertorriqueños, un país para los poquitos que tienen muchos recursos, mucho dinero.
The administration they were fighting against in 2010 and 2011 was the same one that approved the tax break now famous for inviting wealthy investors to move to Puerto Rico. Luis Fortuño was the governor who signed it into law.
These are type A individuals. They don't sit around watching TV all day. They want to go out and they're investing in the local economy.
Brian Tenenbaum from Morgan Reed benefits from the tax break. He didn't agree to an on-camera interview either.
No han puesto ni un vellón aquí.
Comedores Sociales went on the news, collected signatures, and made noise on social media saying they deserve to keep the building. After months of negotiation, Morgan Reed agreed to sell it to Comedores Sociales for $187,000, about half of what they had listed it for.
No fue como que él cedió porque era bueno, es como que cedió porque le convenía. Se evitó un desastre publicitario que hubiese sido peor para la corporación.
The group raised the money thanks to grants from different foundations, and in December, they could finally say they held the title to the building. They call it El CAM, or the Caguas Mutual Aid Center.
Por fin podemos anunciar hoy que es nuestro, ¿verdad? Poder conseguir esta victoria era como quitarle algo, ¿verdad?, a las garras de los buitres y poder celebrarlo, y así ha sido la respuesta. Al menos una propiedad le quitamos a esta gente.
Estamos como sobreviviendo a toda esa mierda que nos tiran de todos lados. Y sobreviviendo fuertes, consistentes, raizando bien brutal. Para mí eso es un privilegio, ¿verdad? Yo estoy agradecido con la vida de que me está permitiendo estar en este momento histórico.
Y eso me da confianza de que, estamos aquí con la gente que está dispuesta a hacerlo todo y vamos a prevalecer, no tengo duda.
Thank you so much for watching The Real News Network, where we lift up the voices, stories, and struggles that you care about most. And we need your help to keep doing this work, so please tap your screen now, subscribe, and donate to The Real News Network. Solidarity forever.